The greatest martial artist who ever lives collapses and dies at 32 years old, 6 days before his greatest film is released. He never sees what it becomes. 20 years later, his son is killed on a movie set by a prop gun that should have never been loaded. 3 days before filming is complete, he was engaged to be married in 17 days. He never sees his film either. Same family, two films, two devastating losses, two legacy the world is still talking about 50 years later. Everything you're about to hear is sourced from court records, published accounts, and documented film history. This is the story of Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee, and it's one of the most haunting stories cinema has ever produced. Before we talk about how Bruce Lee died, we need to talk about who he was and how he lived. Because most people know the legend, but not the man. Bruce Lee was born in San Francisco in 1940 and raised in Hong Kong. He started learning Wing Chun Kung Fu as a teenager. By the time he moved to America as a young man, he was already developing his own philosophy on martial arts, something he called Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist. He wasn't just a fighter, he was a philosopher. He was a teacher, a man who believed that martial arts was a path to understanding yourself and the world around you. In Hong Kong, he became a superstar through a series of films that showed the world something it had never seen. A Chinese man as a hero, powerful, intelligent, unbeatable, in a film world where Asian men were either comic relief or invisible. Bruce Lee was neither. He was the most dangerous man in the room, and the room was always on screen. By 1972, Warner Brothers came to him with an idea: a martial arts film tournament, a tournament film, a Hollywood production, the first major American studio film to star a Chinese American actor in a leading role. Bruce didn't just agree to star in it, he fought for it. He demanded script changes to ensure that he, not the character actor Roper, was the hero of the story. He insisted the film be accurately reflect Hong Kong culture and the philosophy behind Kung Fu. When the screenwriter refused his changes, Lee required him to be sent home entirely. He fought at every level to make Enter the Dragon represent something real. On the set, he ate lunch with the stuntmen rather than the producers because he understood that the men putting their bodies on the line for this film deserved his respect. Up to 400 background actors were employed in the tournament scenes. Many originated from real life rival gangs. Fights broke out on the set. This was not a controlled Hollywood production. This was Bruce Lee dragging his vision into existence through sheer force of will. Enter the Dragon finished production. Bruce Lee was at the cusp of international stardom. Everything he had worked for his entire life was about to arrive. And then on July 20th, 1973, Bruce Lee was found unconscious at the apartment of actress Betty Ting Pei in Hong Kong. He was rushed to the hospital. He never regained consciousness. He was 32 years old. The official cause of death was a cerebral edema, severe swelling of the brain, possibly triggered by hypersensitivity reaction to a painkiller called equigestic that had been taken for a headache. But the circumstances never really fully satisfied people who loved him. How does a man in absolute peak physical condition, someone who trained his body to a level humans never beings ever approached, simply collapse and die from a brain swelling at 32? Why did it take so long to get him to the hospital? 50 years later, those questions are still have completely no complete clean answers. And the theories from organized crime in Hong Kong film industry to a family cursed tragedy, medical misfortune has never gone away. Bruce Lee's wife said later, Bruce had such high hopes for this film. He saw it as a culmination of his dreams. His passing was a shock, but the film's success is a testament to his enduring vision. Enter the Dragon went on to gross over $2 billion worldwide, adjusted for inflation. It was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry as culturally, historically, aesthetically significant. It changed the way the world saw martial arts. Asian cinema, and what a Chinese American man could be on screen. Bruce Lee never knew any of it. Brandon Lee was 8 years old when his father died. He grew up carrying a name that was both a gift and a burden. The son of the most famous martial artist who ever lived, expected to be something, expected to follow, expected to be Bruce Lee's legacy rather than his own person. His entire spent his entire career trying to step out of that shadow, and by early 1993 he was getting there. He landed the lead role of Eric Draven in The Crow, a dark gothic film based on a cult underground comic book about a rock musician who rises from the dead to avenge the murder of himself and his fiancée. It was the kind of role that could change everything. Dark, complex, emotionally demanding. The kind of film that shows what an actor is actually capable of when given the right material. Brandon Lee was ready. He was engaged to a woman named Eliza Hutton. They were planning to marry on April 17th in Mexico, weeks after the film wrapped. Everything was in place. Everything was about to begin. His manager, Jan McCormick, had called the production a week earlier to complain about the difficult conditions on the set. She said this, and this is a detail that'll stay with you. You guys are killing Brandon down there. She meant it as an expression of frustration about the grueling schedule. She had no idea how close to the truth she was. Here's exactly what happened, because the details matter. Earlier in the shoot, a crew member purchased a set of dummy cartridges, prop bullets used to make the gun loaded on camera without firing anything. During a close up scene, some of those dummy cartridges were loaded into the gun and the trigger was pulled for the camera. The tip of that dummy cartridge broke off and lodged inside the barrel of the gun. Nobody checked, nobody noticed. Weeks later, that same gun was used for a scene where Brandon Lee's character, Eric Draven, walks into his apartment and is shot by a villain named Funboy. The gun was loaded with blanks. Cartridge was gunpowder but no projectile, safe under normal circumstances. But the gun was not normal. There was a piece of that dummy bullet that lodged into the barrel from weeks earlier. When the blank fired, the gunpowder propelled that lodged fragment down the barrel with the same force as a real bullet. The gun fired. Brandon Lee fell. The squib, a blood packet used to stimulate a gunshot wound, went off. Everything looked exactly like it was supposed to look. It wasn't until the director called cut and Lee didn't get up that anyone understands something was wrong. He was losing blood from a wound in his abdomen. A piece of a bullet, the size of a silver dime, had entered his body and lodged near his spine. Brandon Lee was rushed to the hospital in Wilmington, North Carolina. He died later that day. He was 28 years old. His wedding was 17 days away. When Brandon Lee died, almost all the Crow, had been completed. There were only a few scenes remaining. The production made the decision to finish the film using a stunt double with visual effects used to replace his face in certain shots. The stunt double who finished Brandon Lee's scene on the crew was a young man named Chad Stahelski. You might know the name. Chad went on to direct the entire John Wick franchise, one of the most successful action film series of the last decade. The Crow was finished and released in May of 1994. It became a cult classic. Brandon Lee's performance was hailed as extraordinary, the role that would have launched him into a completely different level of stardom. Roger Ebert wrote that the film was more of a screen achievement than any of his films of his father. Brandon never read that review. He never saw the finished film. He never married Eliza Hutton. Bruce Lee died before Enter the Dragon was released. Brandon Lee died before The Crow was released. Both films became iconic. Both performances are considered extraordinary. Both men are remembered not just for what they created, but for what they never got to see become. The family curse, as people called it 50 years later, may be nothing more than a tragic coincidence. A father and a son in dangerous professions dying young under completely different circumstances 20 years later. Or it may be something that resists easy explanation. What is not in question is this: Bruce Lee changed the world's understanding of what an Asian man could be on screen. He didn't ask permission, he demanded space, and he took it and made something that the world has never forgotten. And Brandon Lee, in his final film, proved he was more than his father's son. He was something extraordinary in his own terms. A performer who fought, who found his role, found his voice, and found the film that was going to announce who he really was. Neither one of them got to know it. Both of them live forever anyway. Enter the Dragon is available to stream on multiple platforms. Watch it knowing Bruce Lee never saw what it became. The Crow is available to stream as well. Watch it knowing that Brandon Lee died filming his own death scene and never saw the finished film. Both are testaments to what happened with performances so complete and so committed and so true that it outlives the person who gave it. The Real Unseen, the film worth watching. If you like this, come back for more. And please like and subscribe.